Hi, everybody. As you know, I'm Dennis, the okayest DM, and I have a YouTube channel that you're on right now where I make mistakes running games so you don't have to. Today, we have another special guest to talk to us about GMing Styles. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. This is Mandii. Mandii, who are you? What do you do?
Hi, everybody. I'm Mandii, or the Mandii, as you see me all over the internet, except for Twitter. We're not going to talk about that. And I write for TTRPGs. I do art for TTRPGs. I'm jamming for Kobold Press at Gen Con in the next few months. And I also stream on my own channel, twitch.tv/the Mandii. That's Mandii with two eyes. I stream 2 nights a week, Wednesdays and Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And they are both D&D games, 5th edition. Wednesday, we play Mist Lost, which is my completely homebrew game. Homebrew planet, homebrew deities, homebrew everything.
Wow.
And on Fridays, we play Dungeons and Dinglings. That is a Forgotten Realms based campaign, and we are presently in Thay, fighting the Red Wizards. So definitely check that out if you're into that kind of lore. It's also a very homebrewed version of the Forgotten Realms. Yeah, that's me.
That's a perfect place to start, is like homebrewing your own stuff as a GM, because I personally the only time I've ever run something that was like pre-written, like a pre-written adventure, it was the first time I was ever running a game. I just needed some sort of guidance to tell me what to do in general, and since then I started like immediately realize I don't really like doing this. I don't like following directions. I'm gonna go do my own thing and just use your stuff for inspiration, if that's all right. But I also know that there's lots of people that just run the adventures. You know, Curse of Strahd,
Right.
Tomb of Annihilation, all of the published books, which have a lot of content. Whether it's and it's not just D&D stuff. There are a lot of publications for other games out there as well that are like, here's an adventure that you can run. I just never got into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say when I started DMing, I started with pre-established adventure, and then quickly we all realized, hey, this isn't that fun. Let's just do something different. Let's do a one-shot, like write us something, see what you come up with. And that turned into an entire ass campaign. So I very quickly learned, like, hey, I can do this. I'm actually pretty good at this. And I still use that one shot as a one shot from time to time. I'd love to turn it into a campaign again, because that was a home game. It wasn't streamed, so nobody knows all the secrets. At least nobody in the stream world. So there's that. But that was again like Forgotten Realms, because I'm a huge Forgotten Realms fan. I love Ed Greenwood. Shout out to Ed. It was cool playing D&D with you yesterday. And yeah, I just love the lore of it. I don't know why. It's just something about it. I guess because there's just so much to draw from, that I get to break it all and rebuild it, which is so fun for me. I love breaking everything about the Forgotten Realms and then rewriting it.
Yeah, no, that's where I started as well. I had I started looking through the actual, I think it was the player's handbook, with its pantheons and its its planes, and I just rewrote all of that using pretty much the same names. Like I picked different gods from different pantheons and said, okay, you 25 get to be in my world, or whatever. And it worked, and it's still fun. And I in more current times, that was like what, 8 years ago or something now. I've started to write, my own stories about, these are the stories that the people in the world tell about the gods that they worship. And that also has been in it's a certain way of running your games where you run something that you have pre-built. That's how I started out, but since then I've moved to a much more improvised style. I've been running a lot of different games for, servers like D&D Newbie Sessions, which caters to new players and just sets up games for them. There's several other servers I've run for, but I started running enough where I realized, I don't have the time to prep for all of these anymore. I don't have, the 3 hours to spare to run this 3 hour outside of the game before I run it. So I started moving much more towards an improv style. So for a couple of those games, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to look at anything. I'm going to sit down like 10, 15 minutes before the game, look at the characters that they've built, and then build something out of that for this one shot. And it was awesome. It was so much fun to see what just make all the connections that you can and turn it into a plot just on the fly.
Characters build the world for you. You don't even have to do that much work. You just connect the dots or add some different threads for them to grab onto that seem like they could be something, and you don't even have to think about what it is yet. You can just say, this character is looking for their parents and they want to solve the mystery of their parentage and want to understand like why they were left behind, why they were in an orphanage, why they never left any tokens or letters or anything like that for their kid, and give them threads for that. Like, there's a couple of, whatever lineage that character is. There's a couple of, elves. There's a couple of elves that seem pretty distinct that are traveling alone together on, the other side of the continent. Oh, well, let's go that way. Or something like that. Or find a token that like triggers a memory or something like that. There's so many different things that you can do just on the fly. Like, writing everything out ahead of time and doing hours and hours of prep is just, I can't do it.
No, not anymore.
I'm too ADHD for that shit.
Yeah,
Absolutely
same.
not. Cannot do it. I forgot to ask, can I curse here? Sorry.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Okay. I don't mind. I think YouTube has a weird thing of like excessive cursing in the first like 5 minutes and you'll get flagged. But
cool. I think we're well past that point.
We're past that.
Yeah. Awesome. Perfect. I don't have to censor myself. But yeah, one of my favorite things to do, especially in Miss Lost, because it's my world, I can do whatever the fuck I want with it, is telling my players afterwards when we do like stars at the end. We'll go offline and we sit and talk for like a solid hour about what we liked about what we did in game, and give each other kudos for things, and then also say nice things about what we did during game. And my favorite part of that conversation is to be like, hey, remember that scene that you guys all went like absolutely insane over? I improv that. I made that shit up on a fly. Yes. And then they're like, whoa, that's crazy. I can't believe you did that. And it's so much fun to me to be like, haha, I didn't plan any of it.
Yeah, seriously, the best moments that have come up in my games as well have been something that I just like thought of pulled like in the moment, pulled it out of the air, just created as the emotions were still flowing from whatever was happening in the story. I definitely could not have done that, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah. It is something that definitely needs a lot of practice. You need to understand like what a story structure is as well. Yep. You need to have consumed a lot of content to know a lot of stories to understand like why this sort of plot device here would be good. And why people would enjoy it instead of just, throwing out random monsters that don't really have a connection, which is, one of
sometimes can be fun.
It can be. Yes, sometimes when you walk through the glade of random encounters, that's what the players want.
Yeah. I should create a place and literally call it that.
One of my cousins did. It was like his first game ever. He called it the Glade of Random Encounters, and
that's hilarious.
We met like a sphinx there. We fought a shambling mound. Like every single time we had to go through the forest, we had to go through this same glade.
I love fourth wall shit like that.
Yeah.
Like even if it's not improv, like I find that very entertaining to do stuff like that. Or anything that's randomly generated. I love random tables so much. I have so many written out, I have a problem. To the people who are watching at home, I have a problem. I love random tables too much. I don't want to tell you how many I have. There's a lot. And they all have at least 100 things on them.
Oh, I love it. Like, you need to get to that 100 too, so that you can have the actually roll the D100, which you never get to use otherwise.
Yeah, I use it a lot in my games.
Yep. I'd like forayed into that, but I never got really like invested in, creating these tables. I will find like 2 or 3 sources of inspiration, 2 or 3 ideas, and then pick the best one from there and go. I don't ever use random tables in game anymore because I feel like it is I feel like I have enough inspiration from the story that already exists. I don't need something that isn't connected to that and try to tie that in as well. I feel like that's just a little bit more work that I'm willing to do. So what I do love is like reading through those tables and just filing those ideas away for later use. Sometimes that can, like, the right random thing in the right place, I feel is a lot more fun for both me and my players than like just rolling on the table in the moment and whatever it lands on, do it. Like, even when I do use tables, I'll probably shouldn't say this on stream, but I do a lot of charity streams, right? Sometimes the donator will donate a thing and tell me their die roll, and I'll look at it and I'll say, you know what, that thing on this random table isn't really that fun, but this thing 2 things up would be perfect for this situation, and I'll just use that one.
Yeah, whatever is fun. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's really about whatever is fun. I feel like random tables definitely have a place. I wouldn't use them all the time. I tend to use them during travel sequences to keep travel a little bit more engaging. And I have random tables for weather, and I have random tables for which, if you roll poorly enough, are detrimental to your travel time. Or force you to camp for longer, or otherwise suffer exhaustion for traveling when it's, pouring rain, thunder, and lightning for days and days. Because I'll roll like per day if the weather clears up or if it gets worse or whatever. When a lot of overland travel is happening, especially in the beginning when they're traveling on foot and they don't have horses and carriages or an airship or whatever the case might be. And also, I have one for on my channel. If you redeem, like if you do bit cheers or if you donate a certain amount of money or whatever, they have corresponding values of what it can do in game. So I allow my chat to interfere with game. They can save a player if they pay enough. They can help me. They can help build an NPC that will become relevant later in the story, or they can give magic items. A random magic item to a player of their choice, and I have a table for that. And I will, unless the item cannot be used by the player, I will stick with whatever it is. And I will find a story, I will make a story reason as to where did they get this thing? Why did they pick it up? Where did they find it? Stuff like that, or what can it be used for? Sometimes I'll even take those items and change them to suit that player.
Yeah, no, I definitely enjoy having an audience interact. Like every single charity stream that I've done is, donate $5 to give inspiration, but if you donate to this cause even more than that, you get to roll on your own table, or if you donate a couple times I've had people donate like $100, and the reward for that is plot twist, you pick.
Yeah.
And that has been fantastic. Like, in one of my favorite ones, it was a volcano. Like, the whole thing was a volcano. Everything was going to be set in a volcano. And one of the players on the stream, Duval King Jacob, donated $100 midstream and said, freeze the volcano. And I'm like, What?
I love that. I would do it. I'd be like, now it's a snowy encounter, bitch.
It took a while, but
You want Yetis? This is how you get Yetis.
Yes, it is. It took a while, but like I had to like wait until the end of the stream. But that's how it ended. Like that's how the threat was ceased. Like one of the NPCs that they had saved turned out to be like this super powerful ice goddess or something, and just freeze the volcano.
Damn. That's awesome.
And now we hit a goal on that one where now we have to we get to play in that setting again. And now, instead of a active volcano, it's going to be a frozen, like a recently frozen tropical island.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to be, I don't know what's going to happen, man. I've learned, like I said earlier, I'm just going to wait till like the 15 minutes beforehand and start to figure it out then.
I mean, you could just take what I love to do is look through the monster manual. Because I like to create monsters that aren't in the monster manual.
Yes,
that's one of my favorite things to do, and a lot of times I will improv those things. I will pick and choose like a couple of different monsters from the manual and take traits from those and put them into this new thing. Or I'll use a stat block as like a baseline, but then I'll change its powers from like fire to ice or something like that. Yeah. So you could take like any kind of tropical esque monster and just instead of like poison, water, fire, switch it to ice.
Yeah,
or wind.
That's I think
really
is going
cool.
to be something I'll rely on heavily. We're not playing D&D for the stream. We're playing a system called Easy D6, which is very, very much like a make it up as you go along kind of system. Where there's only like they've got like, you know, your demon, your greater demon, your dragon, your greater dragon. You've got your skeletons, your bandits. You get all the like common stuff that's like really, really tiny, easy to use stat blocks, and then like a dozen unique monsters for the system. So it's going to be really, really easy to just like figure out, like build a monster real quick in the moment, depending on, you know, what it calls for, what the story calls for. But improv is not the only path forward.
No, it is not. While it is my favorite, and I think it's very underrated, it is not the only path forward. I absolutely have things. So for me, the way I do it is like for Miss Lost, for example, I'll probably keep using Miss Lost as an example because it's more in its infancy than my other games. But in Miss Lost, I had a starting concept, I have a plot twist, and I have an end goal in mind of what the end of the game might look like. So you start with like the skeleton, like the spine of it, and then you keep adding threads. Well, what can they do to find out about this? What can they do to stop this bad thing from happening? What do they do to learn about the bad guys? Because in the beginning, when you're just little tiny blips on the map, you don't know anything about anything. You don't necessarily know what the threat is up front. And having to unravel that and discover like the mystery of that is the campaign. And it helps that a lot of the characters in the cast are centered around secrets, are centered around wanting to find knowledge, or centered around wanting to find out who they are, where they come from, those kinds of things. Like there's several characters in the party that have that same kind of thread, and those things can easily be used to write an entire campaign. So I had the basic concept. I did a casting call. I heavily vetted people. I got like 80 something applications, narrowed it down to the top 10, narrowed it down to the final cast. And that took a few months to do. To get all of that done and said. Yeah, I got way more applications than I ever expected to get. Like I was like, okay, you guys have until this date, or if I get 100 applications, because then I got to cut y'all off because this is crazy. I never in a million years expected to get even that many. So like I had all the concept in mind already. So that's kind of writing in and of itself, right? Like when you're writing a novel, you have to think of point A, point B, and point C being the end, the finale. And then you have to connect those dots, like exactly what you were saying earlier. You have to consume a lot of media, watch a lot of content, read books. I recommend watching TV shows because a D&D campaign or a TTRPG campaign, generally speaking very widely here, is not like a movie. You can make it like a movie, but it's more like a TV show, and you have to think about how to keep things going if you're doing a long-term game, or keep it episodic even if you're doing a short-term game, because some TV shows are only a few episodes long. So watching how TV shows are written and planned out, especially like good ones that you really enjoy, and video games too, especially because you only have so much time of gameplay or so much time of watching an 8-episode miniseries. How do they wrap things up, and when do they do those things? How are those things paced? And you can use all of that and transfer it into, here's how I'm going to do this on the fly. But you have to study. It's absolutely a thing.
But you say study, but it's really just, watching your favorite shows.
Watching TV. I watch my favorite shows, but if I go, oh, this would be good inspiration for like doing a game, I would probably watch the show again with intent. Rather than just enjoying it.
Rewatch it, thinking through, like watch it through the TTRPG lens. How many times
have I rewatched Shadow and Bone? I will never tell you.
For me, it's Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes,
I've seen that so many times.
Me too. I'm overdue for a rewatch. Oh my god.
It's like one of your favorite shows when you say you're overdue for a rewatch. Like you watch it like once every year or 2 years.
Listen,
or
no, not that often. For me, it's been longer. And no, my every year rewatch thing is probably like, what's a good one? I have a few that I rewatch. I'm really bad about rewatching old shit.
I know one.
Probably Shadow and Bone at this point.
I used to rewatch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood all the time.
Oh.
Yep.
I rewatch Cowboy Bebop a lot, and I don't do any cyberpunk stuff yet.
that one's short though. But
it's only 26
problem,
episodes,
a problem that can arise, because when I started running my own games and writing my own stories, before I had watched all this stuff through that lens, is I tried to fit whole episodes into a session. That doesn't always work. In fact, for me, it almost never worked. I would try to make it, like every session is going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Oh boy.
Maybe if you have like 6 to 8 hours, like you play all day.
If it's not D&D, like Blades in the Dark, which I'm really into lately, each episode has a beginning, middle, and end. Okay. But that's because combat doesn't take a million frickin' years.
That's true.
It's completely, the whole system is built like Forged in the Dark, I think Forged in the Dark is the system. The game is Blades in the Dark. But for that system, like everything is built to support narrative. You don't have to sit and plan out your heists. You get to the heist and then you plan out while it's happening, because you can flash back and say, well, I thought of this maybe possibly happening, so I'm going to use a flashback so that I can say we prepared the getaway car or something like that. So everything is built so that you don't have to sit and plan, you don't have to go back and forth, and then combat is very narrative and very quick.
Yeah.
Like the whole game is mostly RP, which I am like, yes, perfect
and like
for
that
me.
it takes I found that there's a lot of groups that do enjoy that, but there are several that still don't.
Oh,
like
crunchy.
They want
the
crunchy stuff.
They want dungeon crawls, which is fine and super valid. I love those things too in moderation.
Last week, I played the oldest game of D&D that I've seen. I was actually, Fred in chat, How to RPG, was also part of that stream. And you can go watch it on Wally DM's channel. We played Beck Me, which is basic D&D, like out of the original red box, like the starter adventure. It was
crunchy.
It was crunchy, But the feeling I got playing that game was not like the feeling I get playing D&D today, playing other RPGs. It didn't feel like we were telling a story at all. Yes, you had the plot of like, you're all adventurers. You start here, we start at the door of the dungeon and we're gonna go in. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and that was, it's the first time I ever really played that way, and I like the vibe. Don't get me wrong. I still enjoyed it immensely. We had a great time doing it, but the whole time I felt like, I had never played this game before, but it felt like nostalgia. It felt like a bunch of friends around a table playing a game together that they've maybe one of them has played before,
Right.
and it was still fun, but it was a different kind of fun, much more. It was a mix between crunch and screw around, instead of serious role play and clever jokes. Like the jokes got exponentially funnier and stupider the longer we played.
Of course.
But and that's a style that you could still run using 5th edition or Call of Cthulhu even. Like if you wanted to, you don't have to stick to the vibe that game was intended for. You can bend that the intention behind it as you will and see what comes of it, because I've done that a few times and awesome.
That sounds fun. I like a dungeon crawl every now and again. I vastly prefer, like, I'm definitely of the I prefer to have a very thespian experience when I'm playing a TTRPG, any TTRPG. That's like 9 times out of 10. That's like, I would pick that every time. But the occasional like big Coliseum match or a dungeon crawl or something like that. Sometimes you just want to hit shit.
Yep.
Sometimes you just want to
roll dice and do damage.
Yeah, I played in a game for a while, a year or two ago at this point. Oh God, it's been that long. Holy shit. Where I was a big barbarian lady, and I was like a Path of the Beast barbarian, which is hands down the coolest barbarian. I will take no questions at this time about that. Hands down, easily the best, and just so much fun to just not have to think about how I'm gonna spell cast, not have to strategize how I'm gonna backstab people or get sneak attack or any of that. I just hit things. I pick things up and I put them down, and that's fun too. I enjoyed combat actually almost more as a barbarian than I did as anything else, because you go in, you hit the thing, you kill stuff, you move on. Where it's a little bit different when you have to worry about like concentrating on spells and
right.
Which direction am I going to cast this so that I don't hit my friends or whatever the case may be.
You don't need to do tactics and resource management as a barbarian.
Yes. No, I just run up and I chop people in half and then I laugh about it and move on because I was an evil barbarian. I wasn't a nice one. So, it's like I drink the blood of my enemies and then I move on to the bigger guy. It's fine.
There you go. A barbarian is also my favorite class. I prefer the storm barbarian to the beast barbarian, but we don't have to get into that.
Storm barbarians are cool.
I just like because whenever I'm looking at D&D subclasses specifically, I really enjoy whatever vibe they come with. And like Beast Barbarian definitely has this thing. You could straight up just play a werewolf without you needing the Blood Hunter werewolf class.
Yeah.
You can with a Storm Barbarian, I always like the shaman from a naturally tough like race or species that just like gets angry and storms come. Or it. I also like. This is too far of a tangent at this point, but I also like having rage be any emotion other than anger. You just get like mania and hit things harder because of that. Or you just get. I saw someone once play a barbarian that just got really, really sad.
Oh my god.
And it was the best mid-combat comedic relief I've ever seen.
Wow. I fully lean into rage being actual rage.
Yeah.
I almost wore my rage shirt today. I should have done that. I have like the Critical Role shirt that's got like the barbarians on it and it just says rage on the bottom. It's so good. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I would say my favorite class though, while we're on this tangent, is Druid. Druid, Bard, Barbarian.
Really? I actually hated bards for a long time, but I've warmed up to them since. You wound me,
sir. Listen, I talk about this in like every interview I'm in because I love her so much, even though I don't play as her anymore. My bard was a glamour bard, and I went to my DM and I said, listen, you're playing a game with me, so you know what you're gonna get. And now I'm playing a bard, so you know what that means? I'm gonna make it her job to be a horny bard. So I made her a courtesan. And I found a background that was homebrewed somewhere of having your character be a courtesan and like all the different things you get with that, because sex work is legal in Waterdeep, and the game took place in Waterdeep. And I was like, okay, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna let me have this background. I'm gonna be the face of the party, and you're gonna have to deal with my ass being super charismatic IRL and in game. And he was like, okay, you have a lot of social encounters because this is, Waterdeep Dragon Heist. So yeah, it's fine. And I talked our way out of so much shit.
And that's
so
like
good. And that's why I love bards.
It's great on your DM as well for like giving you those opportunities. Like you clearly built your character to do this one specific thing, and you had all the opportunities in the world to do it. I
built her purely support. I purposely did not choose College of Blades or Valor or whatever. I was like, she's going to be a glamour bard. She's going to charm people. It's going to be like, my whole build is going to be to win people and monsters over and to get them to fall in love with her, because that's her whole gig. But then I've also played like super simple, straightforward, and I pick things up and I kill them. Yes. I rip his heart out and then I eat it. I'm done. Characters like that. So it varies a lot. I've also played like really goofy characters. Goofy characters are the best because like when you're playing, it's the best time to practice improving. Like you can improv. That applies to any skill
that involves playing as well. But improv, especially since you and I both do a lot of that in our games. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think playing is probably one of the safest ways to get into improv if you're really nervous about doing it as a DM. Some people get really in your head, and I've suffered from this, which is why I'm saying that. You can get really in your head about improv, like, am I doing it right? There's no right or wrong way to improv. As long as what you are doing services the story and moves it forward, that should be your only solid guidepost when you're improving as a DM. Is this moving the story forward? Is this entertaining your players, even if it's not necessarily moving the story forward? Is it contributing to an entertaining scene? Is it fun? And if it's fun and moves things forward, even better. Those should be the only like criteria you put on yourself, in my opinion. Because if you're improving just to make shit up and improv, you're gonna end up with a lot of loose ends that you don't know how to tie together. So you do have to like keep some level of structure in mind most of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a player, when you're role playing, that's a great time to improv. Like you could have one of those bullet point characters. Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Like a one-dimensional character that has, this is your trait, and you stick to it. And then maybe if you're feeling fancy, you can add one more trait. And then once you get comfortable with that one.
Not necessarily that. More like I've played with a wide variety of people, and I find that there's mostly two camps when it comes to character creation for players. I'm going to write you a whole story about my character and tell you everything about where they've gone and where they've been, which I love. And here is my character. Here is their background. Here's 3 bullet points about them. And I love those characters too. So I'm not bashing one way or the other. I love those. But if you are a bullet point character person, or if you can allow yourself to be that person, that gives you more room to improv because you haven't thought about all the stuff that they've done.
Yep.
So you can discover how your character thinks as a person and how they might react to things as a person rather than, a piece of paper. And make them feel more real. So you can improv from that as well. Like, I actually encourage that for people who really want to get into improv. Make a bullet point character and then just build and build and build and build on top of it.
I used to ask all of my players for backstories. Like, give me like a page of backstory or something. And not all of them could do it. Not all of them wanted to do it. The best answer I had for a reason why they didn't want to do it was one of my players told me he wanted to experience the character's story instead of write it. Because he wanted to come in with a character that hadn't really done a whole lot of stuff, has, like you said, those bullet points, like these are his traits, and nothing super eventful has happened in his life yet. And
okay. I like
ironically, because I didn't understand like what a good DM is yet, I still asked him for a backstory. He gave me like a 5-page backstory, and I used it very heavily throughout the entire campaign. But that is like hindsight 2020. Learned. Yeah, lesson learned.
Yeah.
Did
he still have fun though?
Yes.
That's the important part.
I learned early on. As long as everyone at the table is having fun, you're doing it right.
Yeah, that's how you win at D&D, having fun with your friends, and TTRPGs really in general. If you're having fun and nobody's getting hurt, that's what matters.
We talked earlier, before the stream had started, about a survey that I had started to give out to people.
Yes, I'm very curious about this.
I've been running games for a lot of people that I just don't know. And it is very helpful to know what kind of players your players are before you run a game for them, so that you can, if you're able, cater your game to them to make sure that they do have fun. Like, run the kind of game that they want to play instead of necessarily the game that you want to run. There needs to be a connection there. I don't have enough time to get to know on a super personal level all of the players that I run games for. So I put together a survey. It's mostly a character questionnaire of like, here are some questions. You don't have to answer them about your character. This is just like some food for thought. Like, who are your parents? Why did you leave your hometown? Stuff like that.
Okay.
But the last question in that survey, that questionnaire, is probably the most important one, and that is, what kind of player are you? Pick at least 2. And these are the options. An explorer who enjoys uncovering new, relevant information about the world. A role player who enjoys making decisions in character. An actor who enjoys speaking in character, and that's a very important distinction to make that a lot of people don't make. Speaking in character and making decisions in character are not the same thing. You can make decisions as your character without talking like them, and you can talk like them without actually making decisions for them. There is also conspiracy theorist, which is someone who enjoys putting together, that's like your note taker. Someone who enjoys putting together obscure details into like this complex plot and figuring out the answer of the plot. There is, I hate the term murder hobo because both of those words are very negative. So there is initiative demon who enjoys combat. There is munchkin who enjoys making powerful characters. And this is one that I didn't put on there until for a long time, but pacifist, who enjoys watching the story unfold around them without being required to give input. Overwhelmingly, I would call that
observer more than pacifist.
Yes, I could change the name there. I might actually do that next time I send this out.
Because if you have a player who's a pacifist and their character is also a pacifist, like that's
and now there's combat. I don't want to fight.
I don't want to fight. I refuse It's
You
like
get some.
you're playing D&D. Combat's part of it. Yeah, I have opinions on that.
Overwhelmingly,
I don't allow pacifists in the capacity that it will stop the story. Because oftentimes when people play pacifist characters, they don't do it in a way that is helpful to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The answers for this survey: overwhelmingly, explorer who enjoys uncovering information about the world, and role player making decisions in character. Like 90% or more of people pick those two.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
Almost nobody that picks actor, which is speaking in character, also picks initiative demon, enjoys combat. I find those are almost always
polar opposites,
mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
It is very fun. So like, those are the two general groups of people that I separate players into, and I'm trying to create a table with people that have the same play style.
Yeah.
I always enjoy having a note taker at the table. I personally am never that person. Like, I'll just remember everything, and hopefully I remember the right thing in the right moment.
Let's see if I can pull up the one I made for Miss Lost. It's pretty good.
But yes, almost every player is explorer and role player. I mean, role player makes sense. It is a role-playing game.
Yes, absolutely.
But I was honestly surprised to see how many people chose explorer and figuring out new information about the world. And I think that is why now there are so many homebrewers, like people that write their own worlds. There's like, I feel like most GMs at this point do that. There aren't a lot of people who just run exclusively pre-written adventures, at least not in the spaces that I'm a part of.
Most of the professional DMs I know of who do games like through Let's Play Games or whatever, or even through Patreon, unless their entire shtick is homebrew, most all of them are like, I want to run Curse of Strahd. I'm looking for X number of players for Curse of Strahd, and they will do, different modules. Like I've seen the exact opposite of what you've seen.
Okay. Interesting.
Is mostly like for full-time pro DMs, they're running adventures because it's easy to market adventures, because that's what people who need a DM are reading about, and they go, oh, I would really like to play Curse of Strahd. I'm going to sign up and pay for this game. So
like I'm also in that same boat. Like as a player, I've never run an adventure. I've never played through an adventure. I would love to find out why Curse of Strahd is so freaking popular. I want to play that game at some point and experience it myself.
It's a very fun one.
And I could if I had the time. That's our big thing.
Schedule it for after you're done being booked. Like we were talking about earlier.
June 2024, right?
Woof. Yeah. Oh my god. Jeez. Yeah. Okay.
No, that's an exaggeration, but it really is like it really is
like
almost through the end of the year now.
Yeah, mine's getting crazy too. So, okay, so I pulled up the Miss Lost Player application, and in my application, I include, so this might be helpful for you too if you don't already do this. I include, whether or not it's a paid opportunity, what the campaign premise is, what the setting is like, what are inspirations for that setting. So it's like, hey, if you like things like Legend of Zelda, for example, you would love to be in Miss Lost. And then I also put a section that's like about your dungeon master. This is my time zone. Here is my DMing and play experience style. And then in the questionnaire, I also have, how would you describe your play style? And I will let them write out a question or an answer to that. And I put examples that say roleplay heavy, combat preferred, exploration, or explorer, etc. And then what kind of adventures do you like best? Political intrigue, mystery, dungeon crawl, combat, story only, etc. Because I find that a lot of people, like, if I know what kind of adventure they like the best and what kind of play style they like the best, I can get a good idea of the kind of character they're going to make, because they're going to make a character that suits that kind of play style and that kind of adventure.
Right.
If they know that the adventure is one of the types that they want.
Mm-hmm.
So those are really good ones to ask too, like when you're trying to find out, especially when it's like a lot of people. Like,
Yeah.
although to be
Like
fair,
if you
I
got
didn't think
5,
I was gonna get
6,
so
7
many.
people.
Yeah, I have Miss Lost. The cast for Miss Lost is 5 people.
Yeah, that's about my limit, to be honest.
Plus me. My limit is 6, but it was originally going to be 4 players, and well, I picked 5. I picked a top 5, and then one of the people had to drop out because their work schedule changed, which was a shame. And so I had a talk with the 4 players that were still in, and I was like, hey, I can do this game with the 4 of you, but, you know, here's other people from the top 10 who didn't, you know, like, they would have made the cut, but I can only pick so many people. You know, here's who you have to choose from. Do you know any of these people? Do you want them to join? Do you want to play with just 4 people? And we did a vote. We voted on it. And we picked our last player from that, and it honestly was the best decision for the campaign, because the group chemistry is absolutely fantastic. They're all romancing each other, which is phenomenal. They work very well with my DMing style as well, and it's the easiest thing I've ever had to DM ever.
That's important. So you have to feel like you're connecting with the people at the table and they're connecting with each other. And it sounds like that's exactly the basket you landed in.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's a lot of people insert instigator as an other option. Oh God.
No, yeah, they do. On the survey, I always have an other. In case there's something that's on the list that they didn't see. A lot of people put something along the lines of, I like to press the big red button. I like to see what happens when, like, I activate the trap on purpose.
Oh man, for me, that kind of decision depends solely on the type of character I end up playing. So like, my play style is, I want to roleplay a lot. I do love combat. I do love strategy. I love all the things about TTRPGs, but it depends on what the party is doing and what my class is, as to my playing style changes a little bit depending on that. So big barbarian lady likes to press the big red button. She wants to blow everything up. But my druid is like, nah, I'm gonna sit here and watch all this shit unfold, and if you need me for combat, I'll turn into a panther and like help you, I guess, maybe. Whereas a bard would be like, no, we're going to talk our way out of this, because clearly I'm so charming and wonderful that why would anyone ever want to fight me? How could you ever want to mar this face? I'm just so beautiful. Like, so it really depends on the character too. Like my playstyle isn't, for me, it's not static. I know for a lot of people it is, but I really get into like the role of what that person is doing, and I will change my playstyle accordingly for that.
I try to do the same as well. I don't usually play
at the
same. Oh yes, it does help. I'm also the forever DM, so I don't play very often. In fact, I don't think I've ever played. It's fun. It's fun. I don't know why people complain about it.
I don't complain about it. I fucking love it. I do like to play every now and again, but also like I don't miss it, because the DM is a player just as much as anybody else is.
Yep.
You just know all the secrets.
Yeah, you get to pull the strings.
Yes.
I'm slowly, like, because I'm a forever DM, I'm foraying slowly into being more of a player. And I'm starting to like learn exactly what kind of player I am. Like, because if I had to fill out my own survey, I would have to think about it for like half an hour before I could be satisfied with my answer. Because I'm right now playing in a Fallout game. I'm playing
oh, nice.
The kid that doesn't went the stupid memory loss route of like, I don't remember what kind of happened to me. That's actually developing in the plot right now, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. But he's sort of like the happy-go-lucky, I'm here to fight for Vault 2 because they saved my life. And so he's like everyone else in the party
The
just
loyal
calls
puppy
him.
dog.
Yeah, he's the puppy dog. They call him Meatbag. You go check it out. Okay.
Oh my god.
But I also play.
Poor little guy.
I also play like the polar opposite of that. I play my character Archie's in a Pathfinder game. He's a really, really old halfling doctor. That like is old. He was a smuggler. He's like a back alley doctor. He heals people that don't have the funds normally. And he's like a
D&D.
really good person, and he's the party planner, and you know, it's very, very very different characters. And I'm starting to realize I really enjoy playing both of them. Like I feel like I'm in the same boat as you. Like I will morph my play style according to my character. I think it's a lot of fun to play that way.
It's my favorite. I don't like to the only thing I will commit to wholeheartedly in terms of my play style is that I enjoy roleplay. That is my bread and butter. I much prefer roleplay movement. I like to describe the things that my characters do in combat, out of combat. I'm not like Liam O'Brien heavy description, but I'm like closer to that end of the spectrum. I'm not far off from that. But that's the one thing that is static for me is that I want to role play. I like acting. I was a little bit of a drama kid, and I was also like in the literary club, and I did a lot of writing growing up, and art and stuff like that. And I worked in comics for a little while before I started doing the TTRPG thing, and it all kind of like. The reason why I love TTRPGs so much, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, is because it marries all of the things I love to do into one thing. I get to improv, I get to act, I get to write stuff, I get to draw stuff. Like I'll make art of like if I make a custom like an item or a homebrew item or certain maps or certain things that they find in game, like a note or something like that, I make those things and I give them to my players.
And the other cool part about it is that like those things and people that like one or more of those things are probably going to like the rest of them. And that's what I've been discovering is like I started doing TTRPGs because I wanted to do math. I played it like a board game the first time I played it.
Math.
And I slowly started... yes, I do. I like math. Meanwhile, I'm designing a game that uses almost no math because it's more fun to play that way.
I'm sitting over here like, ew, math, ew. I'm definitely the DM who will like round up, round down, go, yeah, you're like 30-ish feet away. You can get there. It's fine.
Like ish, close enough. Yeah. A close enough DM. Another great style.
The only thing I'm a little bit of a stickler on is like how much damage is being done or being taken. Like that's the only thing I go crazy on. But
I'm the opposite.
I digress. I'm bad at math. I'm an art kid. I'm an art student. I'm not good at math. I am stereotypical in that way. Don't at me. I don't like math.
I'm actually the opposite. I am a stickler for actually how far away they are, but when it comes to how much damage they dealt, like you can calculate how much damage you deal exactly. I'll write it down, but I don't usually. I'll say rough.
Did you drop? Nope, you're still here.
I'm still here now. Okay.
I'm gonna stop watching the stream for this. The music thing.
Right. Okay.
It says it said that frames were getting dropped. I don't think it's me.
No, I'm still green. In fact, I think this is a great place. We'll pick up with math a little bit and its uses in TTRPGs when we come back from a quick break. We've already been talking for an hour. Like,
yes, we
time
have.
absolutely flies like this. So we will be right back in 5-10 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We will see you in just a second. Welcome back, everybody. Where did we leave off? We were talking about math.
Yes. Oh God. I hoped you had forgotten.
Shouldn't have come back. Damn it.
Damn it. Can we take another break? I don't want to talk about math.
No, I was just. You mentioned that you like to fudge.
Oh yeah.
Distances, but not hit points.
No,
I'm
not
the
hit
opposite.
points.
I am hard set on distances, but I will fudge hit points. And the reason I don't fudge distances is because usually I play with a map.
I don't.
So,
I'm theater of the mind most of the time.
Yes. Okay. Theater of the mind, I can understand fudging distances, but when you have a map and you have a hard evidence, it's very clear. Like, oh, the DM's just being nice.
I don't know how Matt Mercer does it with theater of the mind. I'm like, how the fuck do you know the distance between all of the things? Are you just making it up? If I ever meet him, I'm gonna be like,
brain.
I need to know. I need you to tell me.
But with
Please.
hit points, the players don't know the hit points. Like, they don't know the maximum hit points. They only know, potentially, how much damage they have done.
Yep.
So that is what I keep track of. I just add up the damage they've done, and I'll, like, when I feel like it's getting close, I'll glance at what the max hit points are supposed to be. And I will time it so that when one player doesn't attack, maybe it's like a combo attack, because I like to do that in my games as well. I don't want it to be like I nick him with my arrow for 2 points of damage and he dies. Yay!
Yeah.
I really enjoy making it a very narrative, how do you want to do this moment. So yes. I will time the monster's actual maximum hit points. Like, if I feel like this would be a good hit for him to die at narratively, then he dies. If he doesn't, then he lives in
that
next
I will do. But rarely. Usually only for, like, big battles. Like, if it's a big guy that they're fighting, I agree. Like, having, I hit him with my arrow for 2 points. Oh, he's dead. Describe your kill. Like, no, stop it. If you like enlarge the barbarian and run up his back, this is an example from Miss Lost, run up his back and then leap at the giant and like stab him in the eye and kill him, that is a killing blow. That is a good way to end it. Not go, oh yeah, you were close, you hurt him pretty bad. No, that you fucking killed that guy. That's dope.
Exactly. It happens the other way too. Like, if it's not actually enough hit points to kill the guy, but it was a freaking epic attack, then yes, he's dead. But if it was actually
unless it's like the first thing they do in combat, then no.
Yeah.
You wounded him real bad.
You have to be close.
My players remember all the stat block details of monsters. You change everything. Yeah, I tell my players, don't look at the monster manual. Because if you do, and I figure out that you do, and you go, he should be dead by now, I'm going to add 200 hit points to his HP. Don't you fucking look that shit up. I don't want to hear it. I don't care how good you are at D&D. If you memorize the stat blocks, I don't fucking care. Treat it like you've never seen this monster before. Because if you start bitching at me and say, he doesn't have that move, or he can't do that, or he's not resistant to fire damage, blah, blah, blah. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And if you bitch again, I'm adding 300 hit points. I will, if my players are too rowdy and I'm like, focus, and they, like, if they're too squirrely, sometimes it happens in my Friday game. I'll be like, I'm gonna add hit points every time you do this thing. Can we focus now?
Yeah.
You gonna focus now? I don't want to be mean. I don't like being mean. I don't like killing player characters. I don't like being mean, but I fucking will. I will. Don't test me.
It's true. Like, I usually don't have to wrangle. I don't have to wrangle people that often anymore.
Everybody at my table has ADHD on my Friday game, including
Yay!
we spend half our not half the session. We spend a good chunk of our sessions like talking about shit that has nothing to do with game. It's bad.
Yep. I find it's that fun, one way to bad. Yeah, I mean, like, you're friends with everyone at the table. Having conversations with them is enjoyable.
I'm very good friends with all of them, so it's like fun, but also like we're streaming.
One way that I slowly have learned that my players will stay more engaged if there is more immersion. So if I've got like the music going, I've got a map on the table, I've got all of the outside of game prep that's not writing the story. Basically, any game prep that's not writing. If I've done all of that, then I find the immersion and they pay attention more because it's like it's closer to actually sitting down and watching a screen.
Yes.
You know,
I share the music that I play and sound effects and stuff with my players when we don't have maps up. Like I'll do music changes. So like if I say, you know, oh, music you open the door, as you do that and the music starts changing, they go, oh shit, music changed! That's the best fucking feeling in the world is when your players are just like, the music just changed. Oh shit, what's happening?
And
so
Fred in chat brings up another good point. When all of your players are also game masters, changes
they're not when
the
they're
game.
at my table. They're not when they're at my table. They gotta fucking segment that shit. They gotta put it to the side.
There are benefits
I play with a lot
to
of game masters too. I get it, but I'm like, when you're at my table, you are not the GM.
You don't know what this is. This
you troll,
you have no idea that he's you need to do acid and fire to him.
How do you know he's not actually a lich? You don't know. He's
and
a
I
troll
love
lich.
usually when the players metagame, like you said, you add hit points when they start to do that. What I will do is I will make their metagame wrong. Like if they start assuming that he's resistant to fire damage, I will make him vulnerable to fire damage for whatever reason. Or just like completely subvert their expectations, like assume he's vulnerable to something and there's no way the character should have known that. I will make him absorb that damage instead.
Yeah, my number one rule at my tables is you do not metagame. You metagame, and I tell you to stop, and you don't stop, you can leave my table. I do not allow it.
It is a style of play that is very polarizing.
Yeah, no, I tell people up front, like, okay, session 0. If you do this, I will kick you out of I will do it live on fucking camera. I will kick you out of the game. Don't. It ruins it for everybody. Don't be that guy. I don't care.
If it ruins it for one
style,
person,
it's
going to ruin it for
like
everyone.
Metagaming.
Yeah.
Go play with other people who like metagaming. Have fun with that. You do not belong at my table, period. Yeah. You could be my friend. You could be the nicest person in the world. Otherwise, don't care. You can't be at my table. It's
like we said earlier, you need to be able to mesh with your players, and your players need to be able to mesh with each other. And it's not just like, it is not, if most people are at the table are having fun, that's still not good enough. It needs
I need everybody to be having a good time. Yeah. If not everybody is having at least a good time, then I'm not having a good time.
Yeah, and if metagaming is a line that someone isn't willing to cross, then nobody at the table can cross it. That applies with it's any
safety tools too.
Yes, that's the word. Safety tools.
Yep. Those are huge in my games. Absolutely.
Yeah, especially like for streamed games. You need to be able to know what
stay in TOS and also that. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, playing with game masters otherwise though can be fantastic.
Yeah, oh god, I love it. Especially if I forget a rule, I'll be like, do you remember what the fuck the rule is on being paralyzed?
Yes,
Can somebody tell me?
All of you have pieces of the encyclopedia inside your head, and together you have the whole book.
That's the great thing about playing with other GMs. That part I do love. But when it comes to like knowing stat blocks or having things memorized, because I totally do. I've played as a player in campaigns that I've DM'd before, so I know all the details. I've read the damn book. Will I pretend I have never seen that book before? Absolutely. Absolutely. My weird little adventurer knows nothing about the things that Mandii knows.
When we were last week, when we were playing the Beck Me game out of the red box, one of the players at the table was Mr. Welsh, and his channel is all about that system. He has run through that exact adventure like dozens and dozens of times. And he had to sit there and pretend he didn't know that a carrion crawler was coming.
Oh God. Yeah, that's it takes a lot of willpower to do stuff like that, because it's hard when you know what's coming next.
Difficult.
when I'm playing a video game I've played before, I'd be like, oh yeah, the boss is around this corner. I'm just gonna,
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna
I will
strafe
do that.
this way. Like, that's a video game though.
Yeah.
It's not, especially if it's a live stream game. But even at home games, I don't allow metagaming. It's just my number one rule is just big no. But like, you got to do it. You got to immerse yourself in the character enough that you act on their knowledge, not your knowledge.
Absolutely.
Because if you're acting on your knowledge, that's cheating. That's how
you need to be able to distinguish the two.
Metagaming. That's cheating to me. Is metagaming. Yeah.
Oh,
I could rant about metagaming for another hour. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's my dissertation, my 300-page dissertation on why metagaming is bad. You should never do it.
Oh,
unless
the difference.
Go
the difference between metagaming and breaking the fourth wall.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, we're on the same wavelength.
Yes.
Good.
So yes, breaking the fourth wall. That is, I allow that in moderation. For the most part, I will say in Miss Lost, one of the player characters regularly breaks the fourth wall, but it's done in the best possible way. She's like a very spacey bard who sees dead people. She's a spirit college bard, and so she sees dead people all the time, and so she's a little weird, she's a little eccentric as a result of that, and she will just randomly make references to like Shrek or something in the middle of like her character monologue, and everybody will be sitting here like crying laughing because she's breaking the fourth wall, but in character we have to be like,
sure.
Like,
yes.
What is, I don't know what any of that means, but okay. And it's just done in such a masterful, funny way that those kinds of instances completely acceptable to me, as long as it's not the only thing you do.
Right.
Balance is key in everything in D&D and really in life. But like breaking the fourth wall, love it. I have
usually at my table
NPCs who break the fourth wall.
Yes,
a lot.
at my table, I'm usually the one that does it. Like, I remember.
Yeah.
One game where, all of the games I run is they are set in the same world.
Shrek is all. Shrek is love. Shrek is life. Oh, there she is. Hello. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Yes, I am.
All of my games are run in the same world, and so sometimes there's details in the worlds that bleed over into other ones. At one time, I made the mistake of like. Oh, just a passing reference, there's demons in the sewer of this city. And it was not the campaign for that. Like, there was another active campaign that was going to solve this 2 years from now.
Oh my god.
So, like, the players start asking questions about him. And at one point, the NPC, the NPC, the tavern keeper, was like, I just don't really know that much about him. I just know that you're not supposed to go down there because it's a plot arc for a different campaign, man.
I love that. That's perfect.
And that is the instance I will use fourth wall breaking most of the time. Just straight up tell the players that's not where you're supposed to go right now. That is for someone else.
It's so good. I love that. I have an NPC who is a planeswalker, and she has a chance to appear in every campaign, one-shot, miniseries I do. There is a chance that she might show up. And that's a thing I roll in the background as to whether she appears in a given situation. And also, like, they have to do certain things for her to catch her attention, and have her be like, hey, I heard you. I was on Earth like chilling, but now I'm here again. And she's just a stoner. She's constantly on the run. She's constantly on the run from the law, and so she has learned enough magic that she has like extra dimensional pockets that she hides in to hide from the popo. And when she meets up with players, she's like very chill, very laid back, like, hey guys, you wanna hang out? You look a little tired. Like, maybe we should just like chill. You wanna smoke? You guys smoke? You guys wanna hang out? Very casual, very chill. Meanwhile, she's like an ultra powerful like druid, who can bend reality. Like, she does shit that druids should not be able to do. And it's like she breaks the fourth wall constantly. She'll be like, oh yeah, I saw that anime or something like that. Like, I've seen this anime before. You guys are fucked up or something like that. And just completely read the characters, like breaking the fourth wall, and like people at the table will be fucking howling. And I like to do that a lot for characters like that, especially powerful ones, because then like the players know, like, even if she annoys us, or even if a fourth wall breaking character is annoying, if I make them super powerful in that way, like you're not going to try to kill them. You're just going to put up with it, which is even better for me. It's very entertaining. I also have a mail carrier who delivers your mail wherever you are.
That's
they're known as the mail person. It doesn't matter what plane you're on, they will deliver your mail.
An impressive feat and a very strange motivation he must have.
Yes. Yes, there's a whole backstory to that, but it hasn't been discovered yet by any of my players. Yes.
There are games though where, like, I know you don't metagame at your table. Period.
No.
None.
Period. None.
Zip.
Nada. Zip zilch.
There are games, like, especially, I've come to understand that old school D&D, that phrase implies metagaming. Like, there's a reason that 10-foot pole is on the equipment list in every D&D book. It's because in earlier games, most of the traps affected everything within 10 feet. So players would get a 10-foot pole and poke something, set the trap off, and then it would be safe to pass. And just having that piece of equipment could be considered metagaming. So it is definitely something that has been baked into a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. And it's one of the many reasons that I have moved away from it, is because I feel like metagaming, like, the reason I play is to have fun and tell stories. Like it's the storytelling aspect that I enjoy the most about actually sitting at the table and like running these games. Metagaming is not. I just feel like that's the opposite.
Is reading the next chapter ahead of time.
Yeah, it's
why?
like knowing things that you shouldn't for no plot reason at all.
Yep.
I feel like the things in the story need to have a reason to happen, and metagaming doesn't have a reason. If you do want to metagame and that's like your style of play, yeah, sure, you can play at my table. You'll just have to have a reason that you know these things. Like, are you an extra dimensional? Are you aware? Yeah, something like that. Or you you're aware that you are a character in a game. I had a player that played that character once. That was really weird. And everybody treated him like he was actually
nothing matters.
insane.
This is all a simulation.
Exactly.
My life is on a single piece of paper. Oh man, I want to play a character like that now. That's fucking hilarious. If it's a concept like that, I would allow something like that in like a mini series or something, not a whole ass campaign. Because if you have existential dread for the whole campaign, that's pretty bad.
Yep, that would get tiring kind of fast.
But by the way, nothing matters and everything is made up. Oh God.
Yeah.
Just
but yeah, so like
metagaming.
Yeah, it would. Like, metagaming can be fun in the right place, but you need to talk about it beforehand. That communication is vital for not just metagaming, but any kind of playstyle. You need to understand like what the players are going to do beforehand so that you can keep the table having fun.
Many of the 5e rules have metagaming built into them. It's frustrating as an older player. I disagree. I think 1e, 2e is very meta. But when you think about the term metagaming, like, metagaming doesn't apply to the building of a TTRPG system. So like, I don't know that we would say, you know, if by definition we would say, yes, the rules of D&D, regardless of the edition, has metagaming baked into it. Yes, because people who are building a TTRPG are building a system, they're not building the story. So arguably all versions of D&D have metagaming built into them, which is why the 10-foot pole exists. But it's the separation between what is baked into the rules, what's baked into the system, and what is done at the table. That's the difference.
Yep.
Because like I don't think you could call rule sets metagaming because it's separate from the game.
Exactly. You can't. The rule sets. I think it might come down to like the language used in the organization of the actual rule book. Like, are the game designers assuming that the characters are going to know these things in order to get past this boss?
Yep. And I mean,
yeah,
there's spells for detecting. Like, there's detect trap spells in first edition, second edition. Like, that was just talked about in the game I was in yesterday, because that's the game that I'm in periodically on a different Twitch channel is like a highly customized first edition, second edition mashup with like homebrew rules and all of that stuff. But they use like most of the same spells and stuff like that. There's just some like modifications to make it a little more stream friendly. But yeah, like in conjunction with a spell like detect traps, the 10-foot pole can make sense in a non-metagaming way because you used a spell to discover that trap is there.
You could also say that the identify spell is metagaming in and of itself.
I hate that spell so much.
Have you seen how Brennan Lee Mulligan handles the identify spell?
I don't think so, which is weird because I love him.
I
haven't
apparently I haven't seen him do this. I've been told this, so grain of salt. But
I'll
apparently,
have to look this up after.
yeah, when someone in his game casts identify, he takes on a voice like this and reads out the exact stat block for the magic item. Thank you for using the identify spell.
I love that.
And that's great. Like if you can bake something like that into your world, call it world building instead of metagaming, then yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. I love that. I purposely when they find items that I've created, if it's powerful enough, I will say this item can't be identified.
Yeah.
You have to use it to find out what it does.
Because
the identify spell implies that there is some level of encyclopedia somewhere that explains what items are. Yeah. Explains the existence of stat blocks, but in a narrative way. To me, like when you read that spell, obviously it doesn't say it pulls that data. It just tells you what it is and what it does. But that implies that somebody somewhere knows what it is and what it does. Whoever created the identify spell would have had to have had that knowledge in order to write the spell, because spells are equations. So if you find an item that nobody's ever seen before, you can't identify that.
I just had an idea that I need to try now. No, you're absolutely right. Like the knowledge needs to exist somewhere.
And I hate the identify spell with a burning, fiery passion. Here's my 500-page dissertation on why I hate identify. It ruins so much shit for me because it's like, I want to give you guys cool loot. I want you to have the joy of discovering what it does. I don't want you to immediately cast identify on literally everything you find. Every time you find loot, you're just like, identify. That's boring. I hate that.
And it's a ritual spell, so it doesn't even cost you a spell slot.
Yep, and I hate that too. Which I hope they change, but I'm not
you'll
gonna
like
go past
this.
5e. So
your description of like what you hate about identify reminded me of the legend lore spell, right? You don't like that one?
Spell too. No,
why?
I don't like that one.
I like that one. My idea is switching those two. Like
so much. Oh yeah, switching them. Okay.
Like legend lore is a first level spell that tells you information about the item that is not how to use it.
That's true.
And then actually a 5th level spell slot with a gold cost and everything would be exactly how you're supposed to use this thing. I haven't tried this. I thought of it like 30 seconds ago. But it's an idea.
Oh yeah, the spell brings to your mind a brief summary of the significant lore about the thing you named. If you know the name, or can describe the object, that would require you to have seen it or to know its name.
And identify is just you have to have it in front of you.
And to be good at describing it, yes. Identify, you have to have it in front of you. Like, legend lore makes sense, like, in the sense of if you're playing, I'm gonna go back to Waterdeep Dragon Heist again just because I love that adventure, but the Stone of Golor. The Stone of Golor casts legend lore. And that's how you find out, you know, things and stuff that are important to the campaign. I'm not gonna say what it is because, you know.
Spoilers.
But, spoiler alert, even though the adventure's been out for like 7 years.
I don't know. I haven't played it.
Well, yeah, but like there's an item in the game that casts legend lore for a very specific thing. It's focused already on a specific thing that you need in order to complete the adventure.
Okay.
So
that's a good use of it.
Stuff like that I think is really, really interesting and exciting.
As someone who likes doing improv, though, I am saddened to tell you that no one in my game has ever cast the spell Legend Lore. Because I would love to make up a story about how this axe used to belong to a farmer and then was enchanted by an elf in his time of need. And just like make that sort of thing up on the fly. I think that would be a blast. So I think I might do that switch. Maybe for my current campaign.
I know the next time I do a D&D campaign, I've already told my Friday game this because they abuse the identify spell like every time they find anything, and I hate it so much. I never realized how much I hated that spell until I got a group that's like, we identify all the things we just found. I'm like, stop it. Fun, discover things. Why do you have to know everything ahead of time? I think that takes away from the fun. But I told them straight up, I'm like, because of y'all, my next D&D game, identify is not on the spell list. Yep. You cannot use that spell. You're done.
That is the simple and clear-cut solution to like getting rid of something that makes the game not fun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm actually considering having it not exist in Mistlost either, because there's too much. Like, to me, when you think about how wizards write spells, like, certain things have to be taken into effect when you are writing the equation for that spell. And if the item doesn't exist, like I said, like legend lore is a little different. That pulls from somewhere else. Because it's a divination spell, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think identify is. I think it is. I don't remember because I hate it so much. I've blocked it from my memory. Identify. It is a divination spell. Okay, so they're both divination spells.
Yeah, I think divination is like anything that just gives you information.
Also, identify has components. A pearl worth at least 100 gold and an owl feather. I'm gonna start being a stickler about that. Do you have a pearl and an owl feather? No? Okay. You can't cast the spell. Suck it, nerds.
So yeah, that is one way of playing the game. You know, you identify, ironically, what spells you hate and think are not fun. You can get rid of them. You can change them. But like
that's like the only spell I would remove, I think, though. Like there's some other bullshit spells, but I that would be the only one I would remove.
Silvery barbs.
I like silvery barbs. Why don't you like silvery barbs?
Because it is abused. Really, it's anything that is abused. That's the problem.
Only players forget when they have stuff like that, so I guess it doesn't get abused in my games because they forget.
Like if they find
anyway.
If I give them a magic item or they learn a spell and they use it in every situation that I throw at them, it starts to get repetitive and dull, and I don't like that. That starts to make it not fun for me. I enjoy them trying to solve problems in different ways using creative thinking and the tools that they have available. If they use the same tool and the same strategy every time, it's a bad story. And I like making good stories.
Yeah, it's boring. I want a player to sit and ruminate on an item that they have just found, and through connecting like in an arcane way, a mental way, a spiritual way to that item, learn things as they are using it. You know, I go to attack them. Well, in that moment, as you're going to attack them, you pick up on something, and you know that if you wanted to, you could cast X spell while you're doing this, or it would have X effect if you want it to.
Or even give them
I want a player to pick up something and go to use it and go, wait, I can do this now. Rather than, I identify it, now I know everything I need to know.
Mm-hmm. Like you
because
need
that
to
leaves
actually...
more narrative room for doing things, especially if it's an item that grows the character, which I like to do for my homebrew items.
Those are fun. I've only done it once. I need to do it more.
I like items that level up with the character.
I think you could even go even further, and instead of saying like what I've done when people like didn't have access to the identify spell is I just describe what happens as they do different things with the item. Instead of like, you could say, you know, you pick up the item, and as you go to attack, swing this axe at them, a word pops into your head, and you say it out loud, and the axe is set ablaze.
Burst into flame. Yeah.
Or I like describing it instead of like telling them the mechanics, because that's what the identify spell basically would have done anyway. I'll like say you pick up the axe and it's warm to the touch. Or give them details to hint at the abilities that this thing has, and they won't know exactly what they are until they try to actually use it.
Yeah, you need to wear gloves when you pick up the sword because it's so fucking cold.
Yeah.
You don't know why it's so cold, but it's super cold. You have to wear gloves when you use this sword.
And then maybe after they've used it for a bit, they don't have to wear gloves anymore, and that's how they learn that they have cold resistance now, because they're attuned to it.
Ah, that's so cool. Yeah,
I just love describing, like reading the rules, interpreting them into a description and flavor, and giving that to the players instead of handing them a piece of paper with all the rules.
Yeah, it's like, would you rather have a stat block, or would you rather have like the joy of like going to lop this zombie's head off and your sword like spontaneously combusting because a word came to mind? I would pick that one. That sounds so much cooler than, okay, you cast identify, here's the spell, here's the stat block, enjoy.
But
I guess
to play devil's advocate, which one is faster and easier?
In my games, they're the same.
Really? You can give someone a stat block, and that takes up less time and more, as the equal amount of time and effort as like having them going through this long description of exactly what this item looks like and feels like as it does this thing that you don't quite understand yet.
Well, in my games, because they're streamed, all my games are streamed. When they cast identify, I am going to have to sit there and read out the stat block anyway, because chat wants to know.
That's true.
And I might get questions from my players. Well, how would you rule this? So that turns into like a little mini discussion when we're talking about the item that they get. And that is often the case. It also depends on the group, but that is, in my experience, often the case. Not every time, but, you know, if they go, well, if it does X, Y, and Z, does that mean I could do this? And I'm like, well, depending on the question, you'll have to find out, or no, it wouldn't work this way, or yes, it would work this way. So I think that takes roughly the same amount of time. And even if it didn't take roughly the same amount of time, because when I make custom things, I write a stat block for them. But like, even if it does on average take more time to do the descriptive discovery, I would rather spend the extra time to do something narratively interesting than to have to pause the flow of game to read a fucking stat block. Right,
exactly. Have that stutter in immersion.
So like, I agree with playing devil's advocate, because most people aren't going to do what I do. Like, most DMs I know aren't going to do what I just described. They're not interested in that. They just want to hand you the stat block and move on. And that's fine. That's valid. For me, I don't like it. I don't like it. I think it takes the fun out of it.
It depends on how I'm feeling in the moment. Like if it's the
Yeah.
beginning of a session or the middle of a session, yes, I will absolutely just, we will have fun going through this description. But if we've been playing for 5 hours and I am brain dead, I'm going to hand you the stat block. I don't want to try to figure out how to describe that to you in that like improv takes work and I don't have the energy for it. Like there are different times that call for different answers to the problem.
Set me up. I'll improv all day, every day of my life. Please set me up. I'm into it.
Makes me wish I had done like theater in high school or at all, period.
I've never taken an improv class, but you would think I have, because I could do it forever. Really. I never get tired of it. Never once.
Well, we're getting close to our 6 o'clock my time, our 2-hour mark. I think we'll wrap it up here. Thank you so much. This has been an absolute joy, just hanging out and talking about our favorite hobby. Real quick, where can people find you? What do you do?
I'm Mandii, or the Mandii, as you can find me mostly all over the internet except for Twitter. I'm professional dungeon master. I write for TTRPGs. I do art for TTRPGs. And yeah, that's me. Hi. Thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
Yes, it was. We might have to collaborate on something else in the future, but I think we'll take that offline. Those can be not what our audience wants to hear. They want to hear us nerd out.
Yes.
All right. All to those of you that are watching or watching not right now, this was a live event. Thank you for watching the VOD. I hope you have a wonderful day. And remember, everything is going to be okay.
Aw.